AI agents are everywhere, automating tasks and making decisions at machine speed. But agents make mistakes. Just one rogue agent can do big damage before you even notice. Rubrik Agent Cloud is the only platform that helps you monitor agents, set guardrails, and rewind mistakes, so you can unleash agents, not risk. Accelerate your AI transformation at Rubrik.com. That's RUBRIK.com.
Every team, every topic, everywhere. This is Believe.
This is Sunbelt Commissioner Keith Gill, and I listen to the Funbelt Podcast.
This is the Funbelt Podcast, part of the Believe Network.
Hosts to Dusty Thibodeau of Warhawk Report, Jeremy Harper of Powell Razor, and Shane Metlin of the Daily News Record.
I think it's potentially a very good week for the Sunbelt.
But I'm just kind of going off on a random rant. It's just frustrating. We still can't get our shit together, Shane. 2 of 3 here once again. Dusty Thibodeau, Shane Metlin, hopefully joining us later on, and sober to be standing, the Red Wolf himself, Jeremy Harper. Shane, we always talk so much football on this podcast because we love the football and we love the Funbelt football.
We do.
But more importantly, it is now Netland season with basketball coming out. Your Dukes picked to win the men's side of the bracket or of the championship in the preseason poll. 175 points, but only one first place vote. I think that means that everybody was really voting them second, weren't they? And then that one first place vote really pushed them over the edge.
Yeah, talking to their SID at JMU earlier today too. Like, I think he figured it out. He averaged it out. Their average vote was like 2.3 or something like that. So yeah, I think they got a ton of second and third place votes. People are probably pretty comfortable that Preston Spradlin hasn't had a truly bad year in quite a while, so they're probably pretty comfortable they're going to be decent. But I don't know who you pick first in this league. So many unknowns. I mean, Arkansas State's up there, and their coach Ryan Pannone on Media Day, who's a brand new coach, is also talking about how he's got 15 new players, and some of them are pretty good players, but that's a lot of turnover to be picked that high. And I'm not disagreeing with picking them that high because everybody's got a ton of turnover, but it's just that preseason poll was kind of nuts when you look at 8 different teams with first place votes. And, the team with the most first place votes, I think was 3rd or 4th. It was wild.
Do you think that it's just the way it is? That I think really going into this season, I couldn't tell you who's going to be good, bad, or indifferent in basketball. I mean, according to the poll, ULM is a hopeless soul with only 19 points in the poll, and I get that, right? It's a whole new roster, it's a whole new coach that didn't inherit many returners for the team that was one and done last year in the tournament. But is that fair to kind of carry it over knowing that it's a new roster and a new coaching staff?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what's fair, honestly, like when you're trying to judge these teams. Even like looking at a team like South Alabama, I like to look at stuff like Bart Torvik and Ken Palm and some of those like metrics. I don't go by it religiously or make my rankings exactly the same as theirs, but I like to kind of use it as a guide, and you cannot use it as a guide at all for a team like South Alabama, who has so many new players that didn't play Division I basketball last year. And Richie Riley's done really, really well with those types of guys. So I think you give him the benefit of the doubt that he found those guys again. But, how do you even compare? It's really, really tough.
To me, I was a little surprised the Raging Cajuns kind of picked in the lower part of the preseason poll, 9th, with their one first place vote, presumably from Q himself. I like the way that he's really kind of gone in and recruited these rosters. It might come across a little bad saying they're the Houston rejects of recruiting. But you know what? I'd be okay with a guy that couldn't quite cut it at Houston and is now going to be coming to the Cajun Dome I think that he's going to have a pretty good team and a pretty good season.
Yeah, I agree. I think they'll be good. They may be a little bit young too. Some of their more talented players are going to be freshmen. That might be part of the reason, like, for the hesitancy to rank them that high. But, you got a guy coming from a Final Four, just missing out on a national championship level program where he's, learned so much from Kelvin Sampson. I expect him to be pretty good. Like I said before, it's hard to know, like, just quite. Like, I'm with you. They're not ninth. Like, I don't know whether you're talking top 5, top 3, or better than that even, but like ninth seems pretty low.
So we ran through the polls highly, with James Madison being the top, ULM at the bottom. What team, kind of going into it based on this first team, second team, third team that's out there, could be the shocker that really just definitely does not belong where this preseason poll is, and they will be higher?
You're putting me on the spot. Now I got to remember where everybody is. But looking it over again, ODU, I think, is probably going to be significantly better. I found it kind of interesting that, you put a few all-conference players on there. You give them the preseason player of the year with Robert Davis, which I think, with the numbers he put up, it's surprising he wasn't an all-conference player last year. So I think, he's deserving of that. Friends of the show, Mike Jones, getting into his second year, getting a little more stability there. They bring in some new guys. I think ODU is probably one of those teams that has a chance to be 1 or 2 in this league if things go right for them. So, yeah, I kind of feel like if you're giving them the player of the year, like, maybe you pick them a little bit higher than 5th or wherever it was they were.
For me, number 8, Texas State. I feel like TJ, this is the make or break year for him, where this is his full roster, his full team. He has the control. He went out. He got some pretty good players that they're either going to boom and win the regular season league once again, or they're going to bust and give ULM a run for their money on that 14th spot. I think, though, that they're actually in the upper half and leave the Sun Belt on a high note with some hardware.
Yeah, it's possible. I mean, I think maybe people are a little bit down on Texas State just because they haven't really matched what they did the first couple years of the TJ era there here recently. But they're a team that's really peaked late in the season here the last couple of years too, which is the way you want to do it in a one-bid league. Maybe they get together a little bit earlier this time around. We know they've got a good coach, and like you said, they probably want to build up. I think they probably are spending some money on basketball, knowing they're getting ready to join a really competitive Pac-12. So, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see them be a little bit better than that too.
Now we start looking at the preseason all-conference teams. As you said, Robert Davis, preseason player of the year for Old Dominion. When you start trying to dig in a little bit deeper on these teams, who do you feel is that one guy that we all got to look out for?
I mean, I do think it's Davis, but, since we already talked about him, I'm not sure exactly, what else to say about him. I feel like, you kind of look around the team, the all conference teams. It really felt like the coaches only went with guys who had played in this league before that they knew were familiar with. There wasn't a whole lot of guys, even if they put up big numbers elsewhere, weren't a whole lot of them making this preseason all conference team. So, like, even along those lines, a Matt Heyman at Arkansas State didn't make any of those teams. And I really thought he might be like a first teamer. He's a guy I would have kind of answering your question as somebody who I think could like break out. Other than that, maybe Jalen Spear at Marshall is going to be like more of a go-to guy, probably going to get a lot more shots and a lot more looks and stuff set for him. So I could see him having a bigger year this year. And I just kind of expect, ODU is my answer before, but I also expect Marshall to kind of have a bigger year in the second year with Corny Jackson.
Yeah, Jalen Spear was my pick there out of the Marshall. I feel like coming back for another year in the green for the Herd, I think that's the guy that will wind up being, if not the MVP of the season, will be the runner-up for it. So I like Marshall from that standpoint alone. I don't know how well they'll be collectively as a team, but I definitely think that Spear is the spearhead of this program.
Well put.
I do what I can on these great insights that I always try to drop on you and Jeremy all the time.
No, I just love the puns if we can work them in.
Oh, well, yeah, we'll definitely do that.
Yeah.
On the women's side there, Shane, once again, James Madison, I feel like it's theirs to lose until it's not. That is the creme de la creme when it comes to women's basketball in this league. A little surprised that Southern Miss, a.k.a. ULM East, was picked 5th, knowing that this would have been a pretty big year for Missy Bilderback at ULM. She takes a lot of those players with her to build that Southern Miss roster. Picked 5th, no first-place votes. But Jacayla Johnson, the former Warhawk, on the first team preseason all-conference.
You know, I get what you're saying, but at the same time, too, like, it's really those top 5 in this conference are going to be really good. And then I think there's a pretty big drop-off. And, like, you know, I could see picking Southern Miss a little higher. I think they're going to be really good. But, like, you look at the 4 that are above them. Troy brings back multiple all-conference players. You know, ODU does as well. And then they picked up some of the better players from Coastal last year, which was, according to Net, the second best team in the conference. Arkansas State's bringing back, you know, 5 really good players from the team that won the tournament. And, you know, JMU's bringing back the player of the year. Like, I don't know if it's necessarily a slight to Southern Miss to put them at 5th in this particular case. I really think it's fairly exciting for women's basketball in the Sun Belt this year, because, like, there's 5 really, really good teams. And if they can get some breaks in the non-conference, win a few big games in the non-conference, like, I think the men's side's a long ways from being a 2-bid league. I think the women have a chance to actually do that this year if things break right. If, you know, if it, say a JMU goes in with a high net again, like they did last year, and doesn't win the tournament, or maybe it'll be Arkansas State or somebody in that position this year. I think they're going to have a lot better chance of getting in because they're going to play some more high net games in conference, because those teams should be pretty good and win some non-conference games.
So do you feel that there's nobody below that can really make a run?
I wouldn't necessarily go that far, but some of them are going to be more question marks. And, you know, we're always sort of surprised by somebody. Like 2 years ago, who knew Marshall was going to be as good as they were? And Marshall might be the answer to that question here in his second year with Julie Folks. And they bring back some good players too. You know, they might be the team that I think is a little bit too low on this, but, you know, Georgia State, they got some talent coming back too. I just think that those 5 that we talked about before, like, they're maybe as good as any team that the Sun Belt's had in recent years. And I think there's 5 of them. And I think it's going to be really tough for anybody else to, like, really win a ton of games, because those teams are going to be tough to beat.
I'm putting on my maroon and gold glasses because they are such a question mark. I think ULM is the big wild card. And we had Josh McGee on Believe in the Warhawks. You know, his tagline was, we're the newest team in all of NCAA, ranging literally all the way from the SID, the radio guy, the head coach, the trainer, and the roster, that they don't really even know what they have. But they know that they're going to be really good shooters and a really good fast-paced game. I like that combination. Love some Scotty Fletcher there. Think he's a fantastic guy on the Bayou. Yes, I'm a homer. It's my homer pick, but damn it, I believe in it.
Well, you know, and, you know, Scotty Fletcher on the, you know, media day call the other day, is talking about, yeah, there's a lot of new players, but it's a lot of players that he's known since they were young kids, not young kids, but, teenagers. He's recruiting them to JUCO. He's coaching them at JUCO, and now they're reunited. And maybe that's a team that, like you said, it's all new, but they kind of know each other, like a lot of them. And, some JUCO talent, they could surprise, especially if they're playing a style that can give people trouble. Like, you go grind it out against ODU one night, and then you got a team that's just like launching threes and playing fast. It can be completely different, and that can give teams trouble.
Yeah, without a doubt. Is South Alabama really as bad as what this poll shows, or do you feel that maybe they're another team that could sneak up?
I mean, I think they're getting better. It's just been like a really tough rebuild there. We talked about off air, like, we're not sure there's a ton of NIL money going into their men's program. I'm sure there's not much going into their women's program if that's the case. I don't know that NIL is completely make or break for Sunbelt women's basketball, but some of the schools are spending a little bit of money on women's. They're making an investment into it. And I think if your administration doesn't particularly care about women's basketball, and I don't know that South Alabama is really shown that they do, like, it's going to be really tough, like, no matter who your coach is, no matter what players you get in there. And I think they'll be better than they have been, but they're going to have a tough time. And I think what's a much better league than it has been the last few years.
And on that note, Shane, we roll into week 7 of football, recapping that schedule. James Madison, they broke out the whooping stick once again, beating down who we all really thought was maybe the team in the East. Old Dominion, 63-27. I'm sure you were dancing and throwing streamers there in Harrisonburg. Was James Madison just that much better than the Monarchs on Saturday?
On Saturday, yeah. And I don't know that all the time it would be like that, but JMU really kind of just put it together finally. They're a team that had been moving the ball most games. They've been racking up yards and first downs and not turning them into touchdowns. And that had made some of these games pretty close. And they really just took advantage of every offensive possession against ODU. And the defense does what they do and kind of locks down in the second half. And it got out of hand. And I think, honestly, there may be a little bit of a mental thing with ODU and JMU at this point. JMU's kind of dominated that rivalry since they got into the Sun Belt in not just football, but, basketball, a lot of sports too. I think ODU hears about that. And maybe when things start to spiral, they really spiral in those games. But yeah, it was a big time performance by JMU on Saturday. If they can play like that consistently, they really do have a chance to run the table and maybe be in that playoff conversation. But I'm not going to say it's a given they're going to play like that every Saturday until we see it maybe a few more times.
Coastal Carolina, are they back, having gotten their second win in 2 weeks when they went to App State to get the 45-37 win? Are the Sea Chickens back?
Yeah. I mean, I wrote them off way too early, apparently. I thought they were cooked a few weeks ago. And yeah, the recent performances have been pretty impressive. I really thought App State would win that game in Boone and break that losing streak to Coastal. But Coastal has owned that series of late, and they go and do it again, and they try to plant their flag at midfield and have a little dust up there. And, we talk about the Sun Belt rivalries. The Coastal App State one might be a little bit underrated because that looked like some real serious bad blood on the field on Saturday. And, Tim Beck went from, I thought it was almost a given he probably wouldn't be back next year, to they're in the race in the East.
Yeah. And I mean, having gotten to see it firsthand is Collier the best quarterback? No, but he's very functional and is good in that particular offense. And I think we've seen that now 2 weeks in a row where he was able to lead that team to their victory off the deathbed there against ULM, and then able to get the big win at App State. We know that's a tough place to go play. I think this team might be on the cusp of turning things around, getting to the 6 wins and going to the bowl game. But they still have a little bit of a tough road ahead of them, knowing that Marshall is another team that has really changed their mascot to the Phoenix, rising from the ashes there, Shane. They got the double OT win over Texas State, 40-37. Texas State falls 2 weeks in a row in overtime, having lost the prior week to Troy. Is Texas State just cooked and both feet out the door, or is Marshall for real and we're seeing the resurgence of the herd?
I think Marshall is getting a lot better with, Carlos Del Rio Wilson at quarterback. I think he's just really found himself, and they're putting up points week in, week out. Texas State is an interesting situation because it's just been, you could say bad luck. I don't know. You mentioned the 2 overtime losses. Go back a week before that, they give up the lead and lose by 1 point. I think it was 1 point, right, to Arkansas State. It wasn't overtime, but another heartbreaker. It's a tough run for Texas State. Be very interesting to see how they respond. Are they just done with it because they've lost these games? They're pretty much out of the conversation in the West after an 0-3 start, or do they say, "Hey, we're that close to 3-0. We can get it together. We can revamp. We'll go to a bowl game, and we'll leave the Sun Belt on a positive note." Really interested to see how they rebound against JMU.
As much praise as we give those teams, the Cajuns fall at home to Southern Miss 22-10. Is Southern Miss your winner of the West? And are the Cajuns cooked, knowing that they have now fallen again in the Sun Belt Conference standings?
Cajuns definitely have an uphill battle if they're going to get into the West. To me, it's right now, it's Southern Miss and it's Troy. Those are the two that I think really have a chance to win the division. And, I don't know. Like Southern Miss, sometimes I look at them and I think they're my favorite. Sometimes I lean more towards Troy, but really looking forward to that game coming up here whenever that is. I have to look at the schedule. But, I really think those two teams have kind of separated themselves a little bit. But Southern Miss seems to legitimately be kind of what they were picked to be when everybody saw the Marshall Express move to the Southwest.
We can't say hate anymore, Shane, because it's not hate. It's grown in Georgia. Maybe the hate is grown in Georgia there. Georgia Southern, they get to claim the GSU moniker with the 41-24 win in Statesboro on the shores of Eagle Creek. Did Todd Helton, Clay Helton, whoever the Helton is there in Statesboro, did he just kind of push off the inevitable, or did the Eagles finally start learning how to fly, or are they soaring?
I'll unmute myself. Yeah, I think maybe he pushed off the inevitable a little bit. They should just beat a struggling Georgia State team at home. They had a good crowd behind them. Georgia State's struggling so much. Like, I just think even with some troubles in Statesboro, you got to win that game if you're Clay Helton. I'm not sure Clay Helton would still be the coach at Georgia Southern this week if they hadn't won that game. They still have a pretty uphill climb. They got to get something figured out on both sides of the ball. Take care of it with JC. I said JC French, but yeah, I mean, they've got to limit their turnovers and figure it out. I don't think the pressure is necessarily off Clay Helton just because they won that game against a team that unless Georgia State figures it out here as we record this, that game will be decided after we put it out. But, they're losing to South Alabama here on Thursday night again. So I don't think winning just one game against a really bad Georgia State team is enough to take all the pressure off Clay Helton.
Are you sure about that?
Fairly sure.
The Troy Trojans. Are they lucky, Shane? Or is Troy actually back in one of the premier teams in the West once again with their 37-14 win over ULM?
I think they're back a little bit. I mean, we're looking at a team that's 5-2 right now. It's not the greatest year in Clemson history, but, they went in and were really competitive in Death Valley there for one of their 2 losses. Yeah, I was not sold on Troy early. Maybe didn't give them enough credit for what I thought was a little bit of a struggle against Nichols in the first game of the season. Kind of turned me off Troy, but they've been good recently. Their losses, we're talking Clemson and Memphis. And I know Memphis is coming off a loss, but we're still talking about one of the best G5 teams there. I'm sold on Troy. I think they have a really, really good shot to win the West.
Yeah, no doubt. I think that's your team right now to lead the West right now. Them and James Madison, possibly your championship game. But looking at the losing side of some of these, we talked about Georgia State, Cajuns, App State, Texas State, Old Dominion, ULM, all falling this week. Is anybody done, or is it still too early to start hitting panic buttons and getting ready for the 26th season?
I mean, I think there's some panic buttons. You tell me, what do we think about ULM right now? I kind of expected more from the Warhawks so far. Is there just too much on Brian Vincent's shoulders at this point? Is it tough to have the depth you need there to make it through a whole season? Have they just played too tough of a schedule so far and it'll get a little bit easier? I don't know what to think about ULM over there.
Yeah. And I'm not sure either. I can tell you this. If you look at the early availability report, there's not a whole lot of Warhawks left to really be able to compete this upcoming week at Southern Miss. I think they're very physically beat up. I think that the 3 straight losses have really started taking a toll mentally of really presenting the here we go again type of mentality. People are definitely pointing the fingers of Brian Vincent being stretched too thin, that he's taken on too much being AD, head coach, offensive coordinator, and God only knows what other titles he's added since then. That I think that's more of a distraction than a help. But to me, the health of the team is the bigger thing that's keeping them down right now.
Yeah. I mean, other than that, I feel like, as I mentioned before, we're recording this on Thursday night and kind of following along with the toilet bowl game with South Alabama and Georgia State. I feel like whichever team loses that one has got to be – it's going to be tough, I think, to get people just invested in finishing the season. If you're talking about teams that are cooked and out of it, that's going to be a rough position to be in. You're already – not going to a bowl game. And if you can't beat the other worst team in the conference, you're really just looking at what are we even out here for?
Yeah. I mean, the loser's already at 7 losses, so you're done. But the winner still has a chance. You just got to win out because you're then looking at only 6 losses.
Yeah. Win out or hope you have a great APR or something.
Hey, it pays to be a smart kid.
Yeah.
Speaking of smart kids, he's like the Beetlejuice of the trio, Shane.
What? Go on.
we think of him. We don't even have to say his name. We just think of him, and he shows up. Look at he's speechless.
Yeah,
because
I thought there was
the very beautifully unshaven pink shirt wearing Jeremy Harper has decided to grace us with the presence, marking the first time in a month that we have all three been together.
Has it really been that long?
Yes.
Oh my God.
That's wild.
All because Jeremy had to stay up late to make sure that he was ready to go for the new Borderlands game.
I tell you
Shane,
what, though. Okay.
Shane was camping out for Backstreet Boys tickets.
Oh, come on. Why would you impugn his name that way? Although Backstreet Boys are cool. Yeah, I'll take that.
Yeah, sure.
By the way, guys, we're recording. I am watching South Alabama versus Georgia State right now. It's not a bad game.
It's getting closer.
Yeah. Well, Ted Hurst got the corner end zone touchdown. And it's our good friend, Craig Stevenson.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He made a point. He said, against Arkansas State in the fourth quarter, up 11 points. They're up 11 points in the fourth quarter against Georgia State. Immediately, Georgia State scores. So there seems to be some doom and gloom with South Alabama right now.
You know what there's not doom and gloom for, though, Jeremy? Something that we have missed near and dear to our hearts.
What is it?
Other than Shane Metlin's birthday.
Ooh.
Second and short.
Oh, second and short. Double gong. Yes. Okay, you guys know the rules of second and short. I introduce the games, and if it's a west-leaning game, we go to Tibbs. If it's an east-leaning game, we go to Shane Metlin. We try to keep it around 2 minutes. Try to keep it short, hence second and short. And guys, are you ready for second and short?
I am.
Why not? We hadn't done it in a while.
Oh, the enthusiasm is intoxicating. All right, hey, it's Thursday night. We're recording Thursday night. You probably won't hear this until Friday. That's fine. But at this moment, South Alabama, Georgia State Panthers, it's a tight game. It's in the fourth quarter. Guys, this is a game that determines, like, it's 2-1-6 teams. So whoever loses is out of bowl eligibility. I'm going to throw it over to Tibbs. Tibbs, are the Jaguars going to somehow pull this game off? They're on paper the better team.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think the Jaguars are the better team there.
Yes.
But the Panthers, they have the Hurst effect. And we've already seen it happen. I like the Panthers to hold on because we need a Western team, not the East teams, because they're all evil, to carry the banner of the Sun Belt and fight for 6 wins to get to bowl eligibility. With that said, though, South Alabama's not going to get to a bowl game because they're still going to play ULM. They'll lose there. Wow. So sorry, JT Crabtree.
All right, so yes, it is a battle to try to at least cling to bowl eligibility. The Jags are on paper just a good team. They have great players. There's something not connecting. Shane, what is going on with the Jags, and who's going to win this game?
I don't know. I mean, I'm following it like on a game tracker right now, and it could really go either way. We're coming right down to the wire here. So I'm honestly not sure why we're talking about it when it's going to be decided before anybody listens to this.
Because it's fun. That's why. It's meta.
Yeah, Metlin.
Yeah, I'm stalling so I can look smart.
You can't stall. There's a whole fourth quarter to be played. I don't know. I'm not going to predict anything. It's just this is a game that I don't know if ESPN2 knew was going to be at 2-1-6 games, but quite frankly, it's been entertaining. And if you're going to have 2 1-6 teams go at it on a Thursday night on national TV, at least they made it entertaining. I'll give it to both teams. Let's move on to Saturday, guys. October 25th, Appalachian State Mountaineers. They're 4-3. They take on the Old Dominion Monarchs. They're also 4-3. It's at 11 o'clock ESPNU. Old Dominion, a 13.5-point favorite. Shane, do they deserve to be a 13.5-point favorite after the last 2 games that they've had?
I think that's the question. I'm not a odds maker, so I don't know how much goes into their overall resume, which is still pretty impressive, versus have they completely lost momentum after the last couple of games. I do think there's a chance that ODU responds because they still have a quarterback who, when he's clicking, Colton Joseph, is really disruptive and hard to stop and can make something out of nothing at times. So I think ODU at their best can win this game by a couple scores. It's just hard to know after the last couple of weeks if you're going to see that from ODU, where they just haven't really played 60 minutes of football.
Yeah, it's not just that they haven't played 60 minutes of football. It's that they keep losing the football. I think they've had 8 turnovers in the last 2 games, and you just can't win games that way. I'm a big fan of Colton Joseph. I'm also a big fan of J.J. Cole, the 6'7" quarterback for Appalachian State. I need to know, Tibbs, what do you see out of this game?
Let's get weird, baby. Snapping the streak. Ricky Ronnie streaking through the quad with the Old Dominion Monarchs, getting the win against App State. Look, they ran into the buzzsaw against James Madison last week. And then against Marshall, I think that they were looking ahead to that JMU game. Those games are in the rearview mirror. They now just have bright lights in big cities ahead of them, including a trip to the Bayou coming up here in a couple of weeks. But for now, let's get weird. Let's celebrate a win over the Corn Cobs of App State.
Yeah, I think turnovers are the kind of thing that just kind of comes in bursts. And eventually you figure it out and you hold on. I think ODU stops giving up the turnovers. I think they pull out this game. And I hate to say this, guys, but it's 28-29, Georgia State. Georgia State just scored a touchdown. Oh, my God. Okay, next game, ULM Warhawks. They're 3-4. At Southern Miss Golden Eagles. They're 5-2. Are they 5-2 or 5-3? I can't remember. 2:30 p.m. ESPN Plus. The Eagles of Gold are 11.5-point favorites. The Southern Miss Golden Eagles seem like they're for real. I can't see really too much weakness in their game. They've got a pretty good defense. They've got a great offense. Meanwhile, the Warhawks having trouble scoring points. Tibbs, tell us about this game.
Warhawks are extremely beat up. They're beat up also, and their availability report is long. I think Southern Miss only listed 2 players on their availability report that were questionable. I think that's your real difference there, quite honestly, is that the Warhawks are a little shorthanded, with most notably a potential change of quarterback of Aiden Armenta being out hurt. Maybe it's Landon Graves, the local kid from Ouachita Christian, getting his first collegiate start. But this is not going to be a good trip to the Rock. They're going to throw rocks at the airplanes, and they're going to crash and burn. Southern Miss moves on, holding on to the Sun Belt West lead.
Shane, do you believe that's the truth?
Yeah, I would just believe everything that Mr. Believe in the Warhawks just told us. Like you said, the availability reports tell different stories for these teams. We're also looking at Southern Miss as a team that's finally got some enthusiasm back in Hattiesburg. And the Rock used to be a really tough place to play. Mm-hmm. And I think it's getting back there. There's going to be a good crowd. I think they're excited about Southern Miss football again, and it's going to be tough for ULM to go on the road and win in that environment.
Yeah, until ULM learns how to score points, which I don't know if that lineup can. I don't see a lot of hope for the Warhawks overcoming Southern Miss Golden Eagles, although it would make it very interesting in the Sun Belt West if that happened. Georgia Southern Eagles, they come all the way to Jonesboro. They're 3-4 to visit Arkansas State, and they're also 3-4. 6 p.m. ESPN Plus. It's homecoming at Arkansas State. The Red Wolves are a 2.5-point favorite. And Tibbs, I'm going to throw it out to you. What do you think what happens with this game?
We talked earlier about Clay Helton and whether or not the win last week against Georgia State was really just kind of delaying the inevitable. Even though he has a big contract extension, I know that the fan bases are ready to run him out of town and push him out to sea in Eagle Creek. With that said, I still think that JC French still has a pretty good pedigree, but it's tough to win at the waterfall there of Centennial Bank Stadium. I like the Red Wolves to continue the roll and get the win.
Oh, okay. Well, Shane, I will say that the Georgia Southern Eagles have maybe the worst defense I've ever seen from a Sun Belt team. It's really strange because the Georgia State Eagles had 4 guys on defense for their first and second team preseason Sun Belt. It just seems strange that this unit should be so bad. Shane, what's going on with the Eagles?
I really don't know. I mean, we talked a little bit earlier about, their game last week against Georgia State, and if, winning that one really means a whole lot at home against a team that was really struggling. Yeah, Georgia Southern really needs this one, but Arkansas State's the team that, like Coastal Carolina, maybe I wrote off a little too early, and they're close games now. Losing at Kennesaw State does not look as bad as I thought it was at the time.
Yeah.
So I'm leaning towards the Red Wolves in this one, assuming it's not fool's gold that you pull off a couple 1-point victories in a row. I don't think it's luck. I think you're learning how to win games, and I kind of expect them to do that against a Georgia Southern team that, outside of playing that rivalry game, hasn't shown us a whole lot.
Yeah, that's funny because the Red Wolves are favored by 2.5 points in this game, which seems like an orgy of points. After all, Arkansas State has won its last 2 games by a total of 2 points. So why waste points, right? It just seems like a lot. I think the Red Wolves have a hard time losing in Jonesboro. It's homecoming. I think they find a way to beat the Georgia Southern Eagles. Shane, did you have something to add to that?
No, I just said you only need to win by 1.
Yeah, that's it. Why waste any effort? Last game of the evening, Louisiana Raging Cajuns. They're 2-5. Wow. They played the Troy Trojans 5-2. Wow. 6 p.m. ESPN Plus. The Trojans are 8.5-point favorite. I'm going to throw this over to you, Thibodeau. Are the Cajuns really this bad?
It appears so, and it's really surprising to see. I know there's all the excitement around Lunch Winfield, the potential that Walker Howard is back, the running back that they have. It just hasn't clicked yet, and I don't know if Coach Desimo is throwing in the towel, or is he still just trying to tweak and turn the offense to figure out how they can get it right? In any case, they have to travel to rural Alabama for a red-hot Troy team that is clicking with Tucker Gilcrease just lighten it up. And we saw it last week on the Bayou when they were able to beat ULM. I think that they get a 3rd straight Sun Belt Conference win and remain undefeated and in contention with Southern Miss for the West.
Wow. So do you agree with that assessment, Shane Metlin?
Yeah, more or less. I think Troy has been better than I thought they would be, and better than I gave them credit for early too. We talked about this before you came on, Jeremy, but like I kind of wrote them off because I wasn't impressed with having to pull away from Nichols late.
Yeah,
but they've been really good. You look at their 2 losses are to Clemson and Memphis, and like they seem to have just been getting a little bit better every week. Tucker Kilcrease is one of the better quarterbacks in the conference, and the Cajuns have just not put it together. Like they don't have, like Lunch Winfield, I think has been a nice find at quarterback when Walker Howard situation, he goes out early in the season. You're kind of scrambling to find out what to do at quarterback. And they've gotten some nice play from Lunch Winfield, but they need more than that on offense, and they're just not really getting it.
Yeah, that offense is not doing very well, even with Lunch Winfield. I don't know, sometimes finding ways to score. I tell you though what, though, Tucker Kilcrease, I've seen him in action. I watched him in a couple of games. Throws a beautiful ball, and he wasn't getting it done the first few games that he was behind center. Suddenly he has figured it out. Tucker Kilcrease has become a good quarterback for the Troy Trojans, and that's made all the difference. By the way, South Alabama just tied the score. It's 31-31. By the time you listen to this, you will know the outcome, but it is all even right now. And guys, we have finished second and short. Good work. Well done. Tibbs, you are muted.
No, you just can't hear me.
You were talking and talking.
That was my parting shot too.
Oh, damn, we missed it.
Yeah. What about y'all? Let's throw out some plugs, promos, and parting shots, practical jokes, fart noises, and everything else. Shane, what do you have?
Nothing all that good. We made it through this whole thing. Obviously, we're talking Sunbelt sports, but how can we not mention the crazy times that we live in? And we have to give our friend Chris Vanini some credit for this because he pointed it out on his Twitter. But we've had in the past week or so a art heist at the Louvre.
Yeah.
And the scandal in the NBA with rigged poker games with X-ray tables and special contact lenses that let you read other people's cards, and the mob forcing NBA players allegedly into point shaving schemes and gambling schemes. And like, it's just like every movie we've ever watched has come to life in the last week or so. And it's crazy times. And I don't really have much to say about it other than like, it is basically like watching a movie when you click on the news right now. And it's wild.
Yeah. For my parting shot, I want to add on to what Shane Metlin said. You know, I was just like a lot of us, I was listening to the scandal breakout this morning with Kash Patel getting onto the microphone.
How fitting.
Yeah, absolutely. Talking about the big bust and all the guys kind of taking credit for the bust that they did. And you know what? This is something of ESPN's own making. I mean, for them to get into bed with ESPN Bet and get involved in this seedy underworld of gambling. I know that that's not what this NBA scandal is about. It's about rigged card games, but it's also about rigged sporting events, which is something that ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports, the people that we're supposed to rely on for up-to-date news, and news that isn't tainted by any type of gambling, I don't know, asphyxiation. I don't understand how this can go on ESPN has no business being involved in online gambling. And I think what you're going to see is more of this crap that's going on with professional leagues, with college campuses. We're already allowing athletes to bet. And we're like, oh, it's going to be fine. These kids, they're not going to bet on themselves. They're not going to fake injuries. They're not going to miss passes. All it's going to be just fine. We have got to wake up and realize that online gambling is a big problem in sports. And we need to figure it out before it ruins the whole pot. Tibbs, I pass it back to you.
Related to that, sports are expensive, dude.
Yeah.
The average cost of a professional ticket has more than doubled since 1999.
Yeah.
I got to see that firsthand going to a F1 Formula One race not too long ago, where a T-shirt for the McLaren racing team was $115, Jeremy.
Holy shit. God.
A hat, much like Dr. Netlin wears, $85. At what point are sports too big for the fans to actually be fans of the sport? And is that coming soon to a college near you? That's all I had.
Yeah.
That's very deep and very profound. Thank you, Tibbs.
That's what she said.
Ah.